Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about some new news that's dropped from the Arrowverse. If you're unaware what the Arrowverse is, it is the connected TV universe on the CW, all the DC TV shows, which includes Arrow, obviously Arrow's ended, but The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Black Lightning, and Batwoman, and obviously Stargirl kind of falls in that too. I mean, technically Titans and Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing on DC Universe kind of fall in that same category as well, just because of Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of pulled them in as well, but it's mainly the previous 6 shows, the first 6 shows I meant. One thing the Arrowverse has kind of become known for is the massive crossover events between the TV shows. Obviously, it started with like the big event of Heroes versus Alien, most recently Crisis on Infinite Earths. Being the most recent one. Well, the new news has come out that the next crossover event, we're getting a little details about it, and it turns out it's going to be Batwoman and the Superman and Lois show crossing over, which makes sense. It's kind of, we're getting like the new kids on the block, you know, during their events, and it's very befitting because obviously, like, you know, back in the day, like that was kind of like where the crossover started too. For like Arrow and the Flash, you know, there'd be many crossovers in that same regard. So I think we're getting kind of something of that magnitude, and obviously it's really interesting because obviously for a lot of some people, I'm sure like people are kind of like, oh, but we just went from Crisis on Infinite Earths to now we're kind of going a little small scale, which obviously there are other people who point out like it makes perfect sense. I mean, literally the MCU is doing the exact same thing. Like after the events of Endgame, it's like you got to scale back down before you build right back up to something like that. So I think it's very befitting. Because obviously this isn't just like a regular crossover, it's considered like still considered like a crossover event. I mean, let's not forget like the magnitude of just like Arrow and the Flash crossing over, but even another great example would be like the Flash and Supergirl, especially when they first crossed over, because that was not only a crossover between 2 different shows, we're talking about 2 different shows on 2 different networks at the time, because that was back when Supergirl was still on CBS, you know, so that was just kind of monumentous in its own right. But it's neat to kind of see that same thing happening here, especially after, you know, this is on the tail end of the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So spoilers, if you have not seen all of Crisis on Infinite Earths, you have been warned. Obviously, like everything's on Earth, well, all the shows are taking place on Earth Prime now, which presents a very interesting opportunity because obviously we know that a Justice League exists in this continuity now because they formed it at the end of it. And from the little bit of details that's come out, like it isn't just going to be Batwoman characters and Superman and Lois characters. It does seem like there will be other characters from the DC, you know, the Arrowverse shows that will make appearances and play a part in the story as well. But beyond that, we don't know. Like, once again, these are still early stages. The news came out a couple days ago. It's Wednesday at the time we're recording this. This video is going to go up Friday, most likely, and even between then and there, more news might end up dropping. But even then, it's just like they're still kind of working things out. So even what the story is necessarily, we don't know. But I think it's going to be interesting because, like, obviously, the Bats and the Supers always have a connection. Obviously, Batman and Superman, but obviously, you know, within the Arrowverse, it's like Batwoman, you know, Kate and Kara, Supergirl, have become good buddies. Like they complement each other very nicely. And we've definitely seen that we saw that over the course of Crisis on Infinite Earths as well. So I'm curious to kind of see like how some of that gets translated in, you know, Batwoman and when it comes to Batwoman and Superman and Lois, because we know some of the details about what to kind of expect from Superman and Lois. What is, you know, obviously it's like Superman and Lois kind of balancing that life of the, you know, their jobs, him, you know, as a reporter, but also being Superman, her job as a reporter, but now like them stepping into like familyhood of like, you know, raising children. Obviously the crossover events are always the things you can always like be expected, you know, you're always excited to kind of check out, just because you're just like, oh, like, you know, because they always end up being these big events and they always end up being so much fun. So I'm excited, you know, whatever this crossover ends up being, because obviously I'm looking forward to seeing where Batwoman goes into season 2, and obviously I'm very excited for the Superman and Lois show as well. Obviously with current events, like obviously schedulings and stuff like that, like obviously a lot of the aforementioned shows, like a lot of their seasons had to be cut a little short because of just like, you know, production being shut down and stuff like that. So a lot of that's going to have to be dealt with over the course of like the seasons and everything. Another thing too is, it is, like I said, it seems like this event is just going to be like a one-night thing of like, okay, here's a 2-hour block of Batwoman and Superman and Lois, and that's going to be the crossover. Like I said earlier, that might include other characters. Like I said, we still don't know the full scope of everything because it's still early days. Like they're still in the process of figuring everything out. I think it also presents another interesting thing because, and I will be going into Batwoman spoilers, so if you're not caught up with Batwoman, do not listen to this. You have been warned. Okay, so at the end of, in season, Batwoman's, kind of, season finale that they kind of had to make into a season finale. The fact of the matter is we get our Arrowverse Bruce Wayne was, casted. Obviously, it's the circumstances of it's actually Tommy disguised as Bruce, but I think that could present some interesting developments because we might see the appearance of the real Bruce Wayne, because obviously he hasn't appeared in the 3 years he's been absent. At least here on Earth 1, obviously there are exceptions in the multiverse and stuff like that. But still, I'm curious to see what that ends up pertaining to, because I'm sure that's going to feed into some of the post-crisis differences. Because as we know in Batwoman, they were like, oh yeah, Luke was like, Bruce was told by a friend of his to hold on to this piece of kryptonite, obviously suggesting, Bruce and Clark obviously do have a relationship, as they typically do in the comics and so well as every other iteration, but obviously they have a relationship in this post-crisis world, and maybe we could dive into that a little bit more. Because I'm super curious, because Kate didn't really interact too much with Clark or Lois. She mainly interacted with Kara during the crisis event, so I'm curious to kind of establish more on that front as well, So it'd be kind of neat to kind of have the full, full Bat family, at least in this continuity, because things have suggested before that, Bruce went at it alone. To be fair, that was always statements made pre-crisis. Who knows post-crisis whether they've changed that, whether there are Robins or a Batgirl. I think it is still Kate's the first of the Bat family in the Arrowverse continuity, but who knows, we'll kind of see whether they end up kind of finagling and changing that, but still, like I said, regardless of all that, it would present an interesting thing if we did get Bruce and Kate meeting up with Clark and Kara, because obviously Bruce and Clark have their connection, but also does Kate and Kara do as well. So it just stuff that's kind of floating through my mind. Obviously I just figured I might as well take this video also talk about some news that has come out recently, that Ruby Rose has stepped away from the role of Batwoman. I haven't looked too deeply into it. I've read some stuff here and there, but I haven't read too deeply. I've read some of her statements and stuff like that, but I don't know if she's ever going into specific details about why she's stepping away from the role. At the same time, part of me is it's none of my business. Her reasons are her reasons alone. If she's made them public, that's fine, but it's just I'm not I feel like it's not my business really. No, it's that's the choices she makes. It's I'm personally bummed by it because I really liked Ruby Rose in the role. I know people have their criticisms of that, and I mean critique criticisms and just they didn't like her in the role, not all the bullshit from when she first got cast and just people had that's not criticism, that's just people's own issues or whatever. But I'm talking about just but regardless of all that, me personally, I really liked her in the role. I'm kind of sad to see her walk away, but at the same time I respect her choices, and so I wish her the best of luck in everything she does. So that's also something that has to be considered going forward too, is because obviously they're going to have to be recasting Batwoman, because a lot of articles bring it up this is a very unique situation. They've never had a title character kind of being replaced like this. This is something new for the Arrowverse, so. But I figured, like I said, because that's something that's come up fairly recently. I saw the news kind of pop up yesterday, so it's kind of even sadder because this is off the cusp of the season 1 finale of Batwoman, which aired a couple days ago. So it just I don't know, it makes it even sadder, a little bit. But like I said, once again, I respect her wishes and kind of wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. So let me know some of your thoughts about this situation. Are you excited about this next crossover? What are some things you would like to see? What are some things you expect to see? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.